You know, in politics, they say loyalty is everything, right up until the moment it isn't. And wow, did we just see that play out? We're going to break down the massive political earthquake that just shook one of India's most prominent parties, the Aam Aadmi Party. You probably know them as AAP. So let's just dive right in. Okay, look at this. 7 out of 10. What does that even mean? It just sits there, kind of ominous, right? But believe me, this isn't just some random number. No, this is the heart of a huge political rebellion. Yup, you're seeing that right. 7 out of the party's 10 members in India's upper house of parliament, the Rajya Sabha, just up and left. I mean, this wasn't just a slow leak, it was a total flood. They wiped out 70% of their own party's presence in that chamber, all in one go. So let's get into the what. What exactly went down here? Well, this was a full-on coordinated mass defection. And get this, it was led by one of the party's most visible and youngest stars, Raghav Chadha. I mean, this guy was a founding member, a super trusted right-hand man to the party chief, Arvind Kejriwal. And just like that, he's the head of the rebellion. Wild. And he didn't go quietly, not at all. He held a whole press conference to lay out his reasons. He basically stood up and accused the very party he helped create of being corrupt and compromised. He's framing this whole thing not as I want more power, but as I have to leave because of my morals. Okay, you might be wondering, wait, can they even do that? In India, there's this thing called the anti-defection law, which is supposed to stop politicians from just jumping ship whenever they want. But, and this is a huge but, there's a loophole. If at least two-thirds of a party's lawmakers leave at the same time, the law sees it as a merger, not a defection. And, well, what's 7 out of 10? It's more than two-thirds. This whole move was planned with some serious legal precision. Right, so something this big doesn't just happen overnight. This whole public split was really just the final scene of a drama that had been building for 22 days. Let's walk through the timeline and see how this thing completely fell apart. So it starts on April 2nd. That's the first sign of trouble. AAP demotes Chadha from a really important leadership job. Then, fast forward about 2 weeks, and this is where it gets interesting. The central government, which is run by their rivals, the BJP, gives Chadha top-tier security. That got everyone talking. And then bam! A week later, April 24th, he drops the bombshell. You can just feel the tension building with each step, can't you? And of course, you've got two totally different stories about why. The party, AAP, said he was getting soft, that he was afraid to speak against PM Modi. But Chadha, he fires back saying, no, you are silencing me. He even posted, silenced, not defeated. So it's a total breakdown of trust. I think what's so fascinating is that both sides actually agree he was being quiet. They just have completely opposite reasons for why. Now, as shocking as this whole thing is, if you kind of zoom out a little, you'll see that Raghav Chadha leaving, well, it's not exactly a one-off. For a party that isn't even that old, AAP has seen a lot of big names head for the exit. I mean, just look at this list. These aren't just some low-level workers. We're talking about founding members, the party's key thinkers, major leaders who have all left over the years. You've got names like Prashant Bhushan, Yogendra Yadav, Kumar Vishwas, and even more recently, Swati Maliwal. This latest group exit is definitely the most dramatic, for sure, but it really does fit into a pattern we've seen before. And listen to this. This quote is from Anna Hazare. Now, if you don't know, he was basically the face of the whole anti-corruption movement that AAP grew out of. He was even Arvind Kejriwal's mentor. And he puts the blame right on the party's leadership. He's basically saying, hey, if the party had stayed on the right path, these people wouldn't have left. He thinks these exits are just a symptom of a much bigger issue. Okay, so what's the fallout from all this? As you can imagine, the defection kicked off a nasty public relations battle, and it's having some very real effects on the ground. And this is where it gets personal. In Punjab, which is AAP's main stronghold, and where most of these MPs are from, graffiti like this started popping up everywhere. It says Gadar, which is a really strong word. It means traitor. It just goes to show you how angry the party's supporters are. So what's the party's official response? Well, they're not saying we messed up. Instead, they're framing it as an attack from the outside. Arvind Kejriwal himself came out and pointed the finger right at the BJP, their main rival. He's trying to make it about the BJP betraying the people of Punjab, not about his own party's internal crisis. And when you boil it all down, here's what it looks like in simple numbers. Before all this, AMP had 10 seats in the upper house. That's pretty good for a party of their size. And after, they're down to just 3. Just like that, their power, their voice on the national stage has been absolutely gutted. Overnight. But while the party is publicly blaming the BJP, we're starting to hear some whispers from the inside. There's at least one senior app MP who's come out and said, yeah, maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we gave Chadha too much power and couldn't control him. It's kind of a quiet admission that maybe, just maybe, they helped create the very problem that's now tearing their house down. So this whole crisis really makes you think about the party's journey, doesn't it? I mean, AAP has been dealing with attacks from other parties for years. That's nothing new. But this is something completely different. You might remember this. A couple of years back, the BJP put out these so-called sting videos accusing AAP of corruption, and Kejriwal's reaction was to just laugh it off. He called them awful, boring films. He was super confident, just brushing off attacks from the outside like it was nothing. But this time it's different. It's the exact same accusations, corrupt and compromised. But now they're not coming from a rival. They're coming from one of their own, a founding member who was right there in the inner circle. And it's a lot harder to ignore that kind of criticism when it's coming from inside your own house. And so that really leaves us with one big question, right? Is this a story about loyalty and betrayal, about ambitious people abandoning a cause for their own gain? Or is it a story about a failure of leadership, about a party that couldn't hold on to its founding members, or maybe even its founding principles? It's a question that really gets to the core of what the Aam Aadmi Party is today and what it's going to be tomorrow.